Hello, everyone. We're just waiting a couple more minutes so other people can join, but we'll be beginning very shortly.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and start. So Julianna and Boo, can you turn on your videos and unmute your audio?
Yes.
Great.
Hello.
Hey, thanks. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar about female business leaders. Today we'll be discussing, why it's important to do an MBA now and the different opportunities HEC provides for women students or female students. We'll be holding a small Q&A session at the end. So we kindly ask that you put all your questions in the Q&A box and then we'll answer them once we're done. Okay. Before I start, I just want to test the audio. Can you write in the chat box if you guys can hear us? Is the audio okay?
Hello.
I can hear you, Juliana.
Okay, good.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, guys. So my name is Patrick Glasgow. I'm the digital marketing manager for the MBA program at HEC Paris. And here with me today are two current students from the September intake, Boo and Julianna. They'll introduce themselves shortly. But before we start the discussion, I just wanted to share some slides with you. So first, I wanted to read a quote from our dean, Andrea Massini: "Diversity is our richness, community is our strength." So at HEC, we really embrace diversity. It's very important for us. And that's why, we have students coming from all over the world, from different academic backgrounds and also professional backgrounds. So it's something very important for us. Here are some key figures from our program. So it's a 60-month program. We have 2 intakes, September and January. Here's a small visual where you can see where our students are coming from. So from all over the place. Our average GMAT score is 690, but keep in mind that that's just an average. The average work experience is 6 years, but usually we have students ranging from 2 to 10 years of work experience. And I'm also happy to say that we currently have 34% females in our program, the female ratio, which is a 2% increase from last year. And this is a number that we really want to push. And so that's why we really encourage women to apply to our program. And that's why we're doing this webinar today. Okay, so I just want to share some pictures of our beautiful campus before we begin. So the first picture that you see here is called the S building. That's where most MBA students have their classes, and that's where you'll be most of the time. And then you also see some pictures of, our campus. It's really huge. We have around 340 acres. You can do barbecues at the lake. We have a chateau. You can do hiking on our hiking trails. So it's really nice, and it's a nice break also from Paris or the city. And here's just one picture that we took last year that I thought was very nice with our students at the Tour Eiffel. Okay, so thank you so much, Julianna and Boo, for joining us today. Maybe we can start off by, you giving a small introduction about yourself, mentioning a little about your professional background, and yeah, that would be great. So whoever wants to start, Boo or Julianna.
I'll go first. Thanks, Patrick, for having us over. Hi, everyone. Hope you all are doing well and keeping safe. So all the pictures that Patrick showed you before, it's real. And we are so lucky to be in a campus which is so beautiful. And in the situation right now, we get to be in such a beautiful campus. So that's really nice about HEC. And thankfully, they let us be on campus. So thanks to HEC for that. So a little about me. So firstly, I am an MBA September 2019 intake. And by education, I'm a computer science engineer. And I, post my engineering, I joined Dell Technologies back in India and started working there. That was my first professional experience that I had post my engineering education. So at Dell, I joined as an engineer into the e-commerce platform for Dell, which is Dell.com, as most of you would know. But 2 years into my career, I transitioned into this team which led digital transformation in Dell. And the team was majorly responsible for basically understanding those projects that we would have, which were feasible enough to transform digitally. How do we break down those projects into tangible, actionable pieces that we could probably implement? And then how do we iterate over and over again to sort of drive this transformation? So during this transformation, I was also in charge of consulting other teams to lead transformation for them within Dell India IT. The reason why I'm mentioning this experience here is because this sort of pushed me towards understanding the non-technical aspect of my job, which was basically people management, understanding people expectation, managing expectation, and amidst this change of situation for the digital transformation that was ongoing then. How do you make the most of the resources that you have? And also, how do you organize the changes in a way that it moves towards the business goals? And we sort of try to leverage on those changes and make the most of it and point it towards business results. So during this experience, what I also understood was my approach to things was very micro, meaning I was more into the nitty-gritty and the details of stuff. And that helped until a while. But as I wanted to grow up in my profession, I also understood that the macro understanding of a situation was essential. And I initially did not have that. And I thought understanding of that would be essential in order for me to make better decisions. And even in my technical space that I was working on. So that sort of was the first seed that triggered me to think towards higher education and MBA for that matter. And the reason why I picked up HEC was clearly one, as Patrick mentioned, the diversity, which is 93% of the cohort is international. Also through my experience with digital transformation and consulting, I was, as I mentioned, I was also handling a lot of other teams, engaging with them, understanding their problems. So this gave me an understanding that I function best and I learned best in a scenario where we could debate on healthy have healthy debates on ideas, and also that we could bounce off of ideas off of each other, right? So that sort of gave me an understanding that I thrive in such a situation. So HEC being 93% diverse cohort, that was my first decision. That was my first pick. And the second one was I had visited Europe a couple of times on long trips. So I happen to have an inclination towards the European lifestyle and the work-life balance that Europe provides. So HEC was sort of a foot in the door towards that as well. So these were my two reasons. The other reasons are many, but these were the two key reasons that I had in mind while choosing HEC as my MBA school.
Okay, thanks, Boo. Yep.
Yeah, I'll let Juliana speak.
Yeah, sure.
Patrick, I'll just maybe go through all three of these questions too, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So hi everyone. I wish I could see all of your faces, but nice to meet you, and exciting that you're starting on your MBA hunts. It was not so long ago that both Boo and I were in your shoes, so we can sympathize with the excitement and the stress and all of it. Along with Boo, I am a September 19 intake. We started last September, so we're about halfway through our program at HEC right now. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina in the US, but I was in DC for my undergraduate university and then stayed and worked there afterwards. So I came to HEC from Washington, DC. And I am very much a kind of non-traditional MBA candidate. My background was in international nonprofit. Right out of school, I worked for about a year in refugee resettlement with the organization called the International Rescue Committee. And then from there, pivoted to a fundraising role at another international nonprofit called Women for Women International. So with them, started off managing their annual giving fund. And by the time I left, I was working with the high net worth individual donors doing major gift fundraising. And I guess similar to Boo, so to get to the second question of why, for me, I decided to pursue an MBA. I loved my job. I loved where I was working, but I think similar to Boo's experience, I very much noticed kind of areas where I was lacking, or where I was just, when it came to making strategic decisions for my team or for the organization, I often felt like we were just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticked. And I wanted a business education that would allow me to understand what I should be thinking through when I am in a position of making those decisions. And I really wanted my undergraduate degree was all in the humanities. I did international development. So I really wanted something that was much more going to really give me the quantitative and analytical skills that that would allow me to kind of move forward. And I'm hoping to transition into more of a more traditional marketing role following this. So those were definitely kind of holes in my capability set that I was looking for the MBA to provide for me. And I am, I don't know how many of you guys out there are, but it's one of the things HEC is also known for. I am hoping to be a career transformation person. So I'm looking to change industry, function, and country. So I'm one of the triple threats, I guess. And that's one of the things HEC is known for. I think it's around 60% or something are able to, I don't know that off the top of my head, but pretty much almost everyone changes at least one of those three things, and a few of us crazies try to do all three. Mm-hmm. And then quickly, why HEC? For me, I think exactly the same thing that Boo said. I looked at a lot of schools, and I looked at 3 schools in France. I looked at 2 other European schools, and I really looked at 3 schools in the US too. And I, of all the schools, when I reached out to current students or alumni at HEC, I almost always got a response. They always were super open to continuing the conversation with me. And above all, they were I found them to be incredibly warm. And that was something that really, really stuck with me. And it's something that can't be, falsely advertised. It was genuinely the human connections I was having with the people I was communicating with. That made me realize that this was a part of a community that not did I want to be a part of, but I had almost already felt a part of, just in having these preliminary conversations with some of the students. And so that really stuck with me, and quickly through that, HEC became my top choice. It also I do have a specific intention on staying in France, so that elevated the French schools for me to a certain level. And I don't know if any of you out there do have an interest in France in particular, but it is true that HEC has an unparalleled reputation in France. And then beyond that, whether you want to stay in Europe or wherever you want to go, the alumni network is absolutely incredible. So the community, both with the students, but then also with the alumni, I think was really the differentiating factor for me with HEC.
And no, thanks guys for sharing that. And I think just, to kind of add to both your points, I think, so Boo, what you said about the international aspect about HEC, I think it's also really interesting to know that you're really getting exposure not to just French companies, for example, you're getting exposure to companies from all over the world. A lot of times companies will be coming to campus and looking to hire in different countries. Yeah. And also, you'll probably be involved in student clubs and have the opportunity to travel, like to do MBA treks. I know that there was the Israeli Student Association that just did a trek to Tel Aviv to visit all the unicorns and innovation centers over there. There's the regatta sailing competition in Italy that our students take part of, where it's a huge, networking event. We have the consulting club that went to Dubai to visit all the consulting clubs over there. So, it's really, really international. And this is something that we really like to see in the program. And then another thing, Julianna, about what you said about career transformation. So the stats from our class of 2019 was that 80% managed to change at least 2 aspects of their career, whether that was function, sector, or location. So we really, really like to focus on career transformation. We know that's why a lot of our students are wanting to do an MBA, because they're wanting to change or improve one aspect of their career. And so that's why in our program, it's, we have 4 days of classes and then 1 day where you can actually meet up with your career advisor and discuss your professional goals. You can do mock interviews, you can improve your CV. So it's really trying to figure out the next step, post MBA. So yeah, no, thanks guys for sharing those answers. So after that, here are some more questions. So maybe Boo, you can answer the first one. So how's the program going so far for you? And maybe you can share some highlights of your experience so far doing an MBA.
Absolutely. And Julianna, please feel free to add something if I'm missing out on something interesting. Yeah. So I've just thought of highlighting 3 things that really stand out. I think one definitely would be the smaller class size. So the batch strength is 180, which gets again divided into 3 sections. So a class of 60. A smaller class size definitely helps, because then everybody sort of knows everybody. The teachers are able to have more direct conversations with the students. I think that's amazing. Aside from just the student and teacher engagement, it's also how do you engage with the other people in the class, because everybody comes from such different backgrounds, such different domains. Even if like I have a doubt, I could just reach out to some of my classmates and get that clarified from them rather than, the teacher, because some of them have hands-on experience on stuff. So first is definitely the classes. The second would be the collaborative mindset. That is something that cannot be, I didn't expect that to be as good as we have it here, but I mean, it's just incredible. A little example of that would be just 2 days back, I was thinking of some ideas, and I was like, how do I materialize them, or how do I just, do a stress test? And I
thought of calling up a friend, and I discussed this ideas with him because he has had business experiences of his own. So he could like sort of give me that understanding, hey, this is going to work, this won't work as well. So, so that sort of helps. So it's not the competitive spirit. I mean, it is definitely competitive, but they are also open to helping out the people, helping out others with their ideas and whatever concerns or issues you might have. So it's very inclusive in that way. That would be the second one. The third one would be both Juliana and I are in a community called Tech, which is the executive community. And that is basically a leadership program, which is led by 2 ex-CEOs, and they pick 12 members each into each team. And basically what we have is we have meetups with CEOs from companies or people in the C-suite from other companies. And we also have discussion within the team. So this is every month for 6 months, we would meet up and we would discuss on ideas on with the CEOs, how do they work, what are the leadership agendas, and how do they propagate those leadership through the value chain of their companies. So that sort of opens you up to how is it like in the real world. So you get a sense of the real world while you are on campus here learning from in class. So that you can sort of understand how does the classroom learning translate to the real world. So that's a good experience and something that I did not again expect, but which I found really incredible in HEC. Those are my 3 highlights. Juliana, do you want to add something more?
Yeah, so I'll just add a few points. I would definitely want to build off of your point about the small class sizes and the professors. I mean, it's absolutely true. Just to give you a concrete example, our kind of intro to marketing class last term, our professor was a former director of HR for Louis Vuitton. He made an effort every single day to have lunch with students, to have like informal conversations about where they wanted to take their career, if they were interested in marketing. These professors are going to know you by name, they're going to know where you want to go, and they're going to be willing to help invest in your future if you're up for that kind of sharing with your professors. You're not just going to be a face in a room full of faces. And that's just one example, but I think every single professor that we've had over the past 8 months is very much, you know, willing and have all offered to have these one-on-one connections with the students. I've loved about, you know, the first 2 terms, you really kind of are getting this global oversight of all the different parts of business, which is super interesting. Like we just had corporate finance. I never would have thought that I could have done anything that I just did on the exam that we took. But it's really forced me to open my mind and open myself up to experiences and parts of the, you know, business world that I never would have been in otherwise. That being said, I'm really looking forward to the specializations in the fall, because we're really going to be able to get our kind of fingers into, you know, things that are super aligned with our passions, and perhaps, at least for me, for example, what's really driving me to do the MBA overall. And then I guess the final thing I would add is, I mean, the classes are amazing, but I'm sure if you're looking at HEC, you're also looking at other incredible universities that have amazing classes and amazing professors. The student body at HEC is just absolutely unparalleled. I mean, it's super collaborative. Everyone comes from a different background, a different industry, and wants to go somewhere different. So there's, you know, even if, you know, both me and someone else want to go into consulting or go into marketing, there's no disinterest in us helping each other because we come from completely different backgrounds. So the company's not going to be interested in me, that's also going to be interested in this person. And I think everyone understands that. And so everyone is really invested. I mean, this mentality of lifting my colleague up also lifts me up. And that's really, really a part, it's palpable within the student body. And then even just the fun stuff. I mean, Boo runs yoga classes a few times a week for us. My friend AJ and I started doing dance classes for the students. There's just fun, supportive environment for us all to be together and pursue our educational dreams, but also our professional dreams, but also, to build these friendships that are gonna last us forever. And it hasn't disappointed so far.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we're really proud at HEC is we purposely have a small class size because we really want to offer a personalized MBA experience, and so that's why we have under 300 students for both intakes, which makes it easier to get the proper resources from our careers team, and also to network, to also build relationships with professors instead of just being a random person in a huge class. And so we really like to focus on those one-to-one connections, as you guys mentioned. So maybe we can go on to the next question and then, kind of discuss a little about the Women in Leadership Club at HEC. So Julianna, I'll ask you the first question. You're currently the Executive Vice President of the Women in Leadership Club. Can you tell us why you chose to run for president and maybe give a little information about the club?
Yeah, so I'll try and be brief with this one, but I worked at an organization called Women for Women International before, so it's probably not a surprise. The questions of gender balance, equality, recognizing gender bias are subjects that I'm passionate about personally, and I think are very important in the business world and becoming more and more relevant, almost even, it's everywhere now. And so it was definitely a club I was drawn to because it was something that I not only felt passionate about, but also felt like it was something I could contribute to the most given my professional network. And I think that's another thing, just a side note, that's cool. This is not just about the Women in Leadership Club, but all of the other clubs. The students are really, really care about going towards clubs that not only will help them proceed in the future, but also think really about what they can bring. And some of the best presentations we've had have come from connections from other students in the clubs themselves that are bringing their connections in. So that's why Women in Leadership Club. And then just quickly to talk about the club itself, our kind of 3 pillars are to activate, elevate, and inspire. So we're really trying to motivate and inspire not just the women, but also the men in our class to be a part of this conversation about gender balance in the workplace and about equality. But then also provide both men and women tangible access to career opportunities at companies that are making a concerted effort to have this as part of their company culture. And then inspire, again, we're bringing in female speakers, female business leaders, having them talk about their career progression, not just the positives, but also the negatives, the failures, because that's really the points of learning. And I guess the last thing we'll say is the one thing that I love about the Women in Leadership Club is it's very, very inclusive. We have men even on our board. And I think at all of the events that we run, we have men present too, which is really cool because I think Boo can probably contest to this as well. But one of the things I love about it is it's not just this conversation of equity in the workplace. It's not just the women that need to be saying it, it's also the men. So the fact that the men in our student body are so excited about learning and about being a part of this movement as well is one of the things that has driven me and inspired me over the past 8 months.
Absolutely. I think I can totally vouch on what Julianna said. And in a couple of those women in leadership events, there are actually men present and listening out to those women talking about women. So that's incredible and really respectful towards the effort.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can, this is kind of mixing also with the next question, but, along with, maybe you can talk also about some initiatives that the club is planning, and also maybe some events that you attended that were kind of, focused on, promoting women leadership or something like that.
Absolutely. So kind of one of the fun side ones, we do a monthly kind of ladies' night. This is one of our only very much exclusively women only events, but it's simple. It's a bit more on the social side. But the idea is to provide the women in the MBA, but also the women partners, an opportunity to get together, hang out, and just kind of a safe space to share experiences and mingle just among us. So that's kind of a constant running monthly event. Some of the other ones we've done, we had a panel discussion that we called HR Behind the Curtain, where we had a really, really open and honest conversation with some formal HR experts, as well as a former MBA student who did a really, really good job negotiating her salary package, to have a really frank and honest conversation about how to negotiate your salary, who knows what during the kind of hiring process. So what does a recruiter know versus what does the manager know? What levers to pull when you should be negotiating for a base salary versus a bonus, when you should be thinking about maybe trying to get to the next, like negotiating for the next job grade level, things like this that are kind of these secret undertones of the hiring process that everyone knows exists, but no one really wants to talk about. So that was a really tangible one that we had. We also had a workshop where it was a venture capitalist workshop, a VC workshop, where they came in and talked about the different kinds of questions that women entrepreneurs are faced with than men. There's like a lot of bias in that area, and women are often thrown kind of like negative questions, whereas men are often given more positive questions. So talking about opportunities instead of risks. And so she gave us, again, like really tangible skills on how to kind of turn a question, gain control of a conversation. And then the last one, there's so many others. I mean, women in the business world is such a hot topic right now. Every single company that comes to campus wants to do a women's event. So those are constantly running, but the last thing, we just kind of launched this whole campaign around International Women's Day in collaboration with HEC and the marketing team, which is this HEC for Parity campaign that is super exciting. And it just is speaking to the fact that it's very much on HEC's radar, that they want to, they're proud of the 34%, but we can do better, and pushing for parity is something that, you know, we all want to be doing. So just bringing the student body in on that. We all got little pins that said HEC for parity, and just trying to get more people involved in that kind of conversation.
Maybe Boo, you want to add?
Yeah, I think Julianna covered most of it, but all I want to say is most of the companies that we know of, like the big shots, Bain in consulting or Amazon in tech world, they all come and pitch to us how they have exclusive programs for women in order to empower them and for gender balance. So I think that's huge in those companies right now, and all of those companies are actually working towards increasing the women numbers there. Representation, be it in C-suite or in the managerial levels, or increasing the women of color, or the flexibility of working from home, or just managing your work life well. I think they're really working towards it, and that's what they come and tell us and pitch to us. And also not just, as Julianna mentioned, share the success stories, but also the struggles, so that we don't fall into their place again. I think that's really helpful. And every other company, they are actually promoting MBAs joining their company, and how do they take on the career path, and how do they climb up the ladder with the help of sponsorship, or just having mentors in the company itself, or in alumni that are already there. I think that's a big help.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so great to see that, yeah, you know, there's always so much going on in our program, and you know, we're really trying to push the number again of women applying to MBAs, because we're seeing at least 3 times the number of male, you know, applicants versus female applicants. So, you know, that's really something that we want to push. So kind of maybe we'll go to the next kind of wrap up stage, and, you know, maybe you guys can, you know, talk about maybe like 1 or 2 takeaways, like what do you think, how do you think this MBA in the future is gonna benefit you? And then maybe, you know, you can mention like some kind of tips you would give for other people thinking about doing an MBA. Yeah, so whoever wants to start.
You want to go first, Beth?
Okay. Julianna, you want to go first? Okay. It's actually a simple one. So I think from the experience that I've had so far, it would be that you always have something to bring to the table. You will always have it. It's just for you to identify. You should not feel less because of maybe you don't have that much work experience, or maybe you don't have the educational background that somebody else has, or maybe you don't have the professional expertise in something that somebody else has. But you will always have that something that you can find out and push towards strengthening that aspect of yourself. So just keep that in mind. And I think I do that, and I try to leverage on whatever my experiences has been so far and build on it. So I think that's all I can tell you. And I think you guys are smart enough and you will figure it out on the journey yourself.
Thank you, Boo. What about you, Juliana?
Okay, so I guess the quick things I would say is, one, be aware of your resources and there's a lot of scholarship opportunities out there for women. I know HEC in particular is partners with Forte, so there's the opportunity for the Forte scholarship, but also they have the HEC for Excellence scholarship, so just keep that out in your mind. Also, I think this is just a great time to be considering an MBA if you are a woman, because as Boo mentioned, they are recruiting like crazy for women right now in consulting, in tech, and I mean in everything. You are wanted, so it's a good time to do it. And then the last kind of just tip I think I would say, putting myself back in the place of your shoes. When I was starting to explore various programs, is really take the time to do a little bit of soul searching and think about very much what you were looking to get out of an MBA. What is the value added that this MBA is going to bring to your life? And if you can articulate that, it's going to help you in your interview process, but it's also going to help you keep focus once you get into an MBA program. At HEC, we are fire hosed with opportunities. I mean, there's so many opportunities that you can't do them all. So at some point you have to have that kind of backbone, that memory of, okay, this is what I came to do this for, that is going to help be your light and guide you forward. So it sounds a little cheesy to do kind of that inner reflection and pick on your thing, but it's important. It's super important. And it's going to help you before, during, and I'm sure after the MBA. Well.
And I also think one thing important to mention is also, kind of the way our careers team their strategy is, first you have to know yourself, then know your market, and then, match yourself to the market. So, maybe you guys can talk a little about that, like even discovering yourself as a leader, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, learning more about yourself, before you kind of, explore the market and stuff like that. I'm sure that was helpful for you guys as well to, develop.
Yeah,
I think those career sessions that we had initially was incredibly helpful. It was definitely taxing because I did not do what Juliana just advised to do. I mean, for me, it was difficult to get into the situation where you have to make decisions so fast. But again, it helped having that goal in mind, because then you can navigate yourself towards that goal step by step and not get lost amidst all those pool of resources or opportunities that you have. So I think that's definitely helpful that you have a goal in mind. That also helps you make the most of the career team that we have here, because if we have specialists in the career teams, so then you can directly engage with the specialist who can help you understand better your particular domain of interest. So I think that definitely is a plus.
Yeah. And yeah, so just to kind of, summarize at HEC, we really, as we are all said, that we want to push the number of female applicants. And so we are partners with the Forte Foundation, who help women applying for MBAs. So they'll waive your application fee, and they'll also offer scholarships as well for women applying for MBAs. We also have the HEC Excellence Scholarship. Just to give you an idea, a rough idea of the number, last year, I think around 75% of our female admitted students received some kind of scholarship from us. And so, this is the kind of help that we're providing or offering so that we can really bring more women into the program. So maybe we can go ahead and start answering some questions. I know, Boo, you said you had to go in like 5 minutes, but we can start maybe by, so Tatiana's asking kind of the January intake. Is there a difference in the size between January and September? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick, you can answer this, I think.
No, yeah, I mean, just to let you know, we usually have more students applying for the September intake. In terms of percentage, I would say we have around 60% of students applying for September and then 40% applying for January, just to give you a rough idea.
And to give you the numbers, I think it's 170 for the September intake and 100 for the January, a total of close to 270 students per year.
Yeah. Another question we have, maybe this is for Julianna because she's not coming from a business background, but Tatiana also asked, how tough is the curriculum for students with no finance or business background?
It's been challenging for me, but I've loved it. I mean, I've loved every second of it. In fact, I think I've probably, I don't know if I feel like some of my friends that are like super good at the math stuff, like they're not getting as much as I am, because for me, I'm learning so much in every single class. I love the challenge because that's why I signed up for. And I would say the other thing that's amazing about it, I mean, we had on your first term, you have financial markets, which was a breeze for some people. For me, it almost killed me. But one of my best friends, like one of my best friends, I mean, she sat with me for 4 days before that exam and basically like went through the entire curriculum with me. And that's just another like concrete example of like, the student body is like here for each other. You show up, you stand up. She was saying, oh, it's a way for me to help study too. She did finance before. She didn't have to study for the exam. She did it because she's a good person, and that's the kind of community we have. So, you have the support of the professors, of the administration, but also of the other students, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's important to have that kind of supportive environment, really, to get all the resources that you need. Because again, people are coming from different backgrounds, so even in terms of knowledge, people are at different levels. So it's great that everyone's there to help each other and yeah, be a team pretty much. So we have another question from Ingrid. So what do you think makes HEC Paris great to switch, like in terms of career transformation? Why is the HEC Paris MBA a good option if you want to switch sector, function, or location? So whoever wants to answer that. Because I mean, Juliana, I think both of you, right? You said you wanted to change at least one aspect. So maybe you guys can comment on that.
I think location's the easiest one. I mean, a lot of people, obviously it's in France, so you have access to the European market in a way that you wouldn't if you have to do, if you're gonna do a school elsewhere. For me, for example, I remember I was talking to an alumni at Stanford, and I was telling her my career dreams, and she was like, honestly, if you want to be in France, like go to even over to one of the top schools in the US, it's like, put yourself in the position of where you want to be afterwards. So I think that's kind of an easy one. And then in addition to it, because the student body is so diverse, you don't just have access to the alumni network of HEC, but you have the access to all the networks of all of your friends also in the MBA. So, I know friends who've gotten internships because another person in the MBA connected them to their old boss in Singapore or something like that. And that also speaks for the industries, because the student body is so diverse in terms of industries. You really have access to so much. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up, I'll let Boo speak, but I think because, this is definitely something that HEC has kind of tried to carve out for itself in terms of its own competitive advantage within the MBA market. And so there are concrete, this is what the Career Center knows, that a lot of people are coming in and want to do this. So they have specific tools where they're talking to you about, okay, where do you want to go? They're almost working under the assumption that you're going to want to transition at least one thing, instead of working under the assumption that you just want to go into consulting or you want to continue with what you were doing before. So it's almost kind of that just like initial framing that really sets you up on kind of this escalated path for success.
I think adding to what Juliana said, I again want to stress on the Career Center bit, because Career Center has been after us since the beginning. And be it from making you understand where do you want to go, or planning out a plan for you, or just doing particular things that will help you take yourself towards your goals, right? Be it like for consulting, let's say you want to get into consulting. Career Center starts with you understanding what are those consulting companies that you want to go to, and how do you sort of start learning those skills that is required, be it case cracking, be it fit interview. So Career Center is after you. I think though that's a big differentiator as compared to other B schools. Secondly, I would also say if it's HEC is because mostly European schools are more diverse in terms of the cohort, because if it's a US school, if I understand it right, 60% of the cohort would be US people and 40% would be international. So I think 93% international student is a big plus pertaining to all the advantages that Juliana just mentioned. So it's huge. And we could all leverage on that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to have interrupted you, Boo. There was just also a follow-up question to that as to, did you guys have like a professional mentor during the MBA process? So, I mean, I can kind of just start off and just say that you will have a career advisor, a dedicated career advisor according to the industry that you want to go to, because as Juliana mentioned, they're specialists in a particular industry, but maybe you guys can comment further on that.
Yes, as I mentioned, the tech program that we are in, that is one way of having a mentor. That is not, I mean, that's a combination, that's not just professional, it's professional and personal, which is a big add because you could discuss, because they're ex-CEOs, so you could discuss your career progressions or your career prospects with them, but also that you could discuss your personal journeys with them. The second one would be, most of the professors are open to having those sort of conversations with you and are wanting you to reach out to them in case of professional mentorship. So I think I haven't reached out to one yet, but they are open to it. So you could leverage on that as well.
Mm-hmm. And Juliana, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or it's okay.
I would just say that the school makes it incredibly easy to access the alumni network. So you know, I can't say that I formally have established a mentorship with an alumni, but I don't think it wouldn't be impossible. It's very easy to connect and build relationships with the alumni that I could very much envision eventually taking on one of those roles. Mm-hmm. But I've very much leaned on the Career Center and my career advisor so far. Yeah,
definitely. And so maybe you can have time just to answer like 2 more questions. So we have one asking about, are there clubs to pursue extra professional interests, like philosophy, theater, etc.? I know we have a public speaking club, but, you know, I don't know, maybe you guys can, you know, talk more about that.
Yeah, there's everything. There's horseback riding. There's
fencing.
Yeah. There's class for everything. There's and then in addition to it, I mean, you are outside of Paris, so like sometimes a group of people will go in together and rent an Airbnb for a weekend, and I'll just like come crash in Paris and play in Paris for the weekend, or you can go to Boo's yoga class. Yeah, the short answer is there's literally anything and everything.
And I think the nice thing also is that at least for the first half of the program, everyone's living on campus, or at least the majority of the students are living on campus. So they're all next to each other. And so this is really the time that they bond. And of course, they're doing different kinds of activities. I know that you guys also, we have a lake that they would go to barbecue. They would do barbecues at. And so when you're all living in the same area, it's very easy to kind of do that and also be involved in the different student clubs that are available. Sorry, Boo, you were going to say something.
Just wanted to add to what you all said, that HEC, if the club is not there yet, there is also a way that you could propose this idea and start out a club of your own. Because if I know it right, we have a beer brewing club here, which got started by people, and it wasn't there, but then people wanted to start out, and that was possible. So there is always a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe we have time for one more question. If you guys have anything you're curious, you want to know about, and also I'll be sending a follow-up email where I'll include the contact information for Boo and Juliana in case you think of questions later on. So do we have any last-minute questions? And if not, it's okay. Again, you can ask questions later if you think about that. But okay, we have so one question, maybe last one from Sohyan. What was the most difficult part when applying for HEC MBA? So whoever wants to start.
Writing my essays in less than 250 words.
Yeah.
Brevity is not one of my talents, as you might have noticed from this webinar.
I think, yeah,
you go.
I think writing the essays, and even when you're writing the essays, I think it's a good way for you to understand not just if you are the right fit for HEC, but if HEC is the right fit for you. So when you're answering those questions, you sort of retrospect into your life a bit. So that opens up that understanding. So be honest to that understanding about yourself, because then it is going to translate in your whole MBA experience. So I guess writing your essays earnestly would be it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure maybe I'm sure you guys reviewed it with others and also kind of had people proofread and everything to make sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's interesting to have someone who didn't doesn't know you super well read them if possible, because I think that part of the reason they give you 5 essays is because, or 4, I can't remember, but because it gives them an opportunity to see you from different perspectives. And so, having someone who doesn't know you by heart read it and make sure that they're getting a concrete takeaway that's different, but compatible from each of the different essay parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one last thing, guys, I want to mention before we wrap this up is that you have the option to really get feedback from our team, our recruitment team. So on our page, we have a Connect with Us option where you can enter information about your profile, your background. You can also add your LinkedIn URL or upload your CV. And then someone from my team will answer you and kind of give you feedback on your application. Maybe if you have any questions about the application process, they'll be able to answer and help you with that. So yeah, that's an option and that we strongly encourage you to do. So I think that's it for today. Hopefully, this was helpful for everyone. And like I said, I'll be sending a follow-up email. But yeah, if you have any other questions in the future, don't hesitate to ask us. And, Julianna and Boo would love to help you if you need any help.
Feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Julianna and Boo, for joining us and for helping out today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
See you, everyone. Bye-bye.